If your sink isn't draining, don't reach for the chemical cleaner yet. In most cases, the clog is sitting in a place you can reach in less than 10 minutes with a bucket and a screwdriver. No special skills, no plumber. And if you use the wrong fix first, which most people do, you can make the job significantly harder to solve later. Here's what's actually happening inside your drain. How to identify exactly where the problem is and the fastest way to fix it without damaging your pipes in the process. Before we get into the fix, here's a situation worth knowing about. A homeowner had a kitchen sink draining slowly for weeks. They tried 2 different chemical cleaners, ran hot water, waited it out. Eventually, they called a plumber, who quoted them a significant call-out fee before they'd even looked at the problem. The homeowner decided to try one more thing first. They put a bucket under the pipe beneath the sink, unscrewed 2 fittings by hand, and pulled out the P-trap. What was inside had been sitting there for months. We'll come back to exactly what they found. But first, let's make sure you know how to identify what kind of clog you're actually dealing with. Let's start with something most people skip, figuring out where the clog actually is. Because the location changes everything about how you fix it. If only one fixture is affected, one sink, one shower, the clog is almost always local. It's in the drain opening, the P-trap, or the pipe directly connected to that fixture. That's the best case scenario, and it's what most household clogs turn out to be. If 2 fixtures are backing up at the same time, say the kitchen sink and the bathroom sink, the blockage is likely further down a shared drain line. If your toilet gurgles when the sink drains, or water backs up into the tub when you flush, those are signs the blockage is deeper in the system. And if multiple fixtures throughout the home are affected simultaneously, you may be dealing with a main sewer line issue. Here's why this distinction matters beyond just knowing which pipe to check. A slow drain that goes unaddressed for weeks doesn't stay a slow drain. Water that backs up repeatedly puts pressure on cabinet bases and flooring. Persistent moisture underneath a sink creates conditions for mold growth inside the cabinet, sometimes for months before anyone notices. In worse cases, a partial blockage in a shared line can eventually cause a complete backup that sends water across a floor or into a cabinet. What starts as a $20 repair can become a $2,000 one if the early warnings get ignored long enough. The slow drain isn't inconvenient, it's a timeline. And in a moment, I'll show you the one clue that tells you whether this is a simple sink clog or a problem that's already working its way deeper into your plumbing system. For now, let's assume what most people have, a single fixture that won't drain. Here's how to approach it. The most likely location of the blockage is the P-trap, the curved section of pipe directly under the sink. That U-shaped bend holds water to block sewer gases from entering your home, and it's also the first place where grease, hair, soap residue, and food particles slow down and collect. Most household clogs live here, and most of them can be removed by hand in under 10 minutes. Put a bucket under the curved pipe beneath your sink. Unscrew the slip nuts on either end of the curved section, usually by hand, no tools required. Remove the trap and look inside. The homeowner from earlier? What they pulled out was a dense plug of dark, hardened grease and food debris that had been sitting in that curve for months. It came out in one piece. The clog that had survived 2 rounds of chemical cleaner and was about to cost them a plumber call-out was removed in less than 5 minutes. Clean the trap, rinse it, reinstall it, run the water. In most cases, that's the entire job. If the P-trap is clear and the drain still won't move, the next step is a drain snake, a flexible metal cable that travels through the pipe until it hits the blockage. Crank the handle when you feel resistance to break up or hook the clog, then pull it back out. A basic handheld snake costs less than 1 bottle of professional drain cleaner and handles the majority of household clogs that sit beyond the trap. If you don't have a snake, try a plunger. Fill the sink with enough water to cover the cup. Block the overflow hole with a wet cloth to keep pressure in the drain. Plunge with firm, deliberate strokes and pull up sharply on the final stroke. You're creating suction, not just pushing the clog further down. That sequence, P-trap, snake, plunger, solves the vast majority of household drain problems. Before you spend money on chemicals or call a plumber, work through those steps first. If you're finding this useful and we're about to get into the mistake that turns a simple clog into a bigger repair, go ahead and subscribe. This channel is built around practical homeowner solutions that save you time, money, and the frustration of fixing the same problem twice. Now let's talk about what most people do wrong. Before we get to chemical cleaners, there's a mistake worth addressing on its own because most people don't realize it's making their situation worse. When a drain is slow and you keep pouring products into it before checking the P-trap, something predictable happens. The chemical cleaner sits on top of the blockage, mixes with whatever is trapped in the curve, and turns the contents of that pipe into a caustic, unpleasant mess. When you eventually do remove the P-trap, which is usually necessary anyway, you're now dealing with chemical residue on top of the original clog. It makes the cleanup more unpleasant, it's harder to handle safely, and in some cases, the chemical reaction inside an enclosed pipe can cause pressure buildup that makes removal more difficult. The smarter sequence is always to check the trap first. If the clog is there, you've solved it without spending anything. If it isn't, then you move to other options. Chemical drain cleaners fail for another reason too. On an established blockage, one that's been building for weeks or months, they eat a channel through the center of the clog while leaving the rest in place. The flow improves briefly, then returns. Most people interpret this as needing a stronger product. What they actually need is a different approach entirely. Used repeatedly, chemical cleaners also corrode certain pipe materials over time, particularly older metal pipes and the rubber seals inside P-traps. Boiling water has the same limitation on grease and adds the risk of softening PVC joints under pressure. Baking soda and vinegar helps with early odor and mild buildup, but doesn't have the mechanical force to clear a real blockage. Now here's the clue I mentioned earlier, the one that tells you whether you're dealing with a local clog or something deeper in the system. Watch what happens when you run water in one fixture while another is nearby. If the toilet gurgles when the sink drains, if water appears in the tub when you flush, or if clearing one drain causes another to back up, the problem isn't local. The blockage is somewhere in the shared drain line or the main stack. At that point, a household snake isn't going to reach it, and continuing to use the home's plumbing heavily can make it significantly worse. That's when you call a plumber, not for a sink clog, but for a main line that needs professional equipment to diagnose and clear. Now let's talk about why drains clog in the first place, because this is what prevents it from happening again. Kitchen drains fail almost always because of grease. Cooking oils, butter, and meat fat go down as liquids and solidify inside the pipe as they cool. Every greasy pan you rinse adds another layer. Coffee grounds don't dissolve, they settle into existing buildup. Flushable wipes don't break down regardless of what the label says. They accumulate until they block. Bathroom drains fail because of hair. It catches on the stopper and on itself, forming a net that traps soap scum and debris. Soap scum narrows the pipe over time. In hard water areas, mineral deposits compound everything else. The warning signs come weeks before the complete failure. Slow drainage, a sour smell from the drain, gurgling sounds after water empties. Most people adapt to these signals without recognizing them as warnings. By the time the water is backing up, the blockage is well established. Here's where prevention makes the difference, and a second situation that shows exactly how much difference it can make. A homeowner had a bathroom sink that clogged every 2 to 3 months without fail. Each time it would slow to a trickle over a few weeks. They'd use a drain cleaner, it would clear temporarily, and the cycle would repeat. They'd been dealing with it for almost 2 years and assumed it was just something about the plumbing in their home. Eventually, they bought a simple mesh drain strainer, the kind that sits over the drain opening and catches hair and debris before it enters the pipe. They installed it in about 30 seconds. They also started removing visible hair from the stopper after each shower, rather than letting it wash down. The sink hasn't clogged once in the 18 months since. A recurring problem they'd been managing for 2 years was solved permanently by a $2 strainer and a small change in habit. That's how most drain problems actually end. Not with a better product, with a small change that stops the buildup from starting. Grease should never go down a kitchen drain. Let it cool and throw it in the trash. Coffee grounds go in the bin or the compost. Pasta, rice, and starchy foods should be scraped rather than rinsed. Flushable wipes belong in the trash, regardless of the label. Once a month, run the hottest tap water you have through kitchen and bathroom drains for 60 seconds to keep early buildup moving before it has time to solidify. Know when to call a plumber. If you've cleaned the P-trap, used a snake, and a single fixture still won't drain, the blockage may be further down that branch line than a household snake can reach. If you see the warning signs of a main line issue, multiple fixtures backing up, gurgling toilets, water at a floor drain, stop using the plumbing heavily and call a professional. If a chemical product has caused any softening, discoloration, or leaking at a pipe joint, stop using that drain and get it looked at. Here's what I want you to take away. Think of a drain clog like debt that accumulates silently. You don't feel it building, you don't see it happening. Every pan rinsed, every cup of coffee grounds washed away, every clump of hair that goes past the drain. It all adds up quietly inside a pipe you never look at. Then one day the payment comes due all at once and the water stops moving. The fix is rarely complicated. In most cases, it's a bucket, a screwdriver, and 5 minutes under the sink. But the real solution is changing what goes into the drain so the debt never builds back up. Do that once, and you may not have to think about this again for years. Drop a comment and tell me what you're dealing with. Kitchen or bathroom, slow drain or complete blockage, what you've already tried. I read every comment, and your situation might shape exactly what I cover next. And if practical, honest homeowner content is useful to you, subscribe and stick around. There's a lot more coming. A clogged drain doesn't happen overnight. It's weeks or months of buildup, finally demanding your attention. Solve the cause once, and you may not have to deal with it again. See you in the next one.